Hey guys, 5th grade math here. We are on page 253 and 254 today. So go ahead and open your book and get ready to learn. Today we are talking about area on to page 253 and 254. So make sure you put your name and the date at the top of your paper so when your parents send it in to me, I can remember what day this assignment grade goes for. So let's look at the top instructions here. It says area is a space within a region. It is measured in square units. If labels are not given, use units as the label. So this example here, we're going to count how many are going across or how many long it is and the width up and down either way. So it's 1, 2, 3 units by 1, 2 units. So you'll notice it's 3 units multiplied times 2 units equals 6 units squared. Now this is pretty important here, this little tiny squared. That little tiny 2 sitting above the S means squared, and so when you multiply units times units, it's units squared. Okay, so let's look at number 1 together. And this is, so it's 7 units up and down and 9 units wide. It says write the multiplication equation to find the area. So the area is 9 times 7, and 9 times 7 is 63. So I think that's right. 63? Yes, 63. Okay, so the area, the equation is 9 times 7, and it's 63. You need to put your units because we don't know if it's feet or inches or miles or yard, and then this little tiny 2 at the top, and you read it. 9 times 7, 63 units squared. All right, let's look at number 3. Now number 2 you'll count, but number 3 you won't. You already have the numbers given to you. So the equation would be 35 times 13. Now that's a multi-step solution. So the first one is 5 times 3, 15. Carry the 1. 3 times 3 is 9, plus the 1 is 10. Now you're moving into the 10 space, and so it's 1 times 35 is 35. You're going to add, and I'm going to put my answer over here. 5 plus 0 is 0. 0 plus 5 is 5. And 3 plus 1 is 4. So it's 455 feet. Don't forget your little tiny squared. It's very important that you include that in your answer, okay? So I don't want to take off half credit because you forget to do that. All right, number 4, 10 times 12, and then you just solve it. Now don't forget this is a magic 0, so you should know pretty quickly what that answer is. Now let's move on to number 5 and the directions down here. Complex area is found by dividing the larger shape into smaller shapes and then finding the area of each shape. Combine the areas found. So as a reminder, it's like if this is a swimming pool and you were to find out how much area is inside the swimming pool to put the water in. So you've got the step side over here, so you're going to divide it kind of like that little step section to the rest of the pool. So we can tell that this regular old square is 6 feet by 6 feet, and like the steps section would be 3 feet by 3 feet. So you would find the area of 6 by 6, and then you would find the area of 3 by 3, and then you would add them together. So it says shape 1, 6 by 6 feet, and shape 2 is 3 by 3 feet. And then, so they've kind of written it like this. Area equals 6 by 6, this is this section here, plus the area of the 3 feet by the 3 feet. All right, so 6 times 6 is 30 feet. 36 feet squared, and you're adding, you're bringing down that plus symbol right there. 3 times 3 feet is 9 feet squared. So now your whole area, this is 36 and this is 9, so the whole entire swimming pool is 45 feet squared because you added 36 plus the 9. 36 plus the 9 for the whole thing is 45 feet squared. All right, so let's look at the same type of equation here. Now the steps are a little bit off to the side, not centered if it was a swimming pool. So this one's a little bit different. We know that this is 8 on the left side. On the right side is 4. So if we were figuring it out, we would know that 8 minus 4 is 4, so we could even know that this would be 4 units here. Just using some thought process here. All right, if the whole thing is 13 feet or 13 units, but this little section here is 6 units, what we know about squares is that they're square, so they're going to be 6 times 4, and here's your 6 here, and this is also 4 here. So if the whole thing is 13, you subtract this 6, and you're going to come up with 7 over here. So this would be 8 units here and 7 units here. So your formula says 8 times 7, 8 times 7, plus this section over here, which is 4 times 6, 4 times 6. So you're going to take two numbers and multiply this square, and two numbers and multiply this square, and you're going to add them together. So 8 times 7 is 56 units squared, and 6 times 4 is 24 units squared, and then add them together for a total of 80 units squared. All right, let's look at number 6. All right, so how can we divide this? Should we divide it this direction or this direction? We have to make a decision. Well, looking at this, I know that if I do it this way, I've got 8 times 4, and then I have 8 times 16. So I think that's what I'm going to do. Now, if I were to do it the other way, I would have to subtract and find, this would work, because we know this is 8, so 16 minus 8 is 8 more over here, like if you were doing Legos. All right, so we could do that way too. Either way would work. So, because when you multiply the numbers, they're going to equal at the end as long as you're using the correct numbers. So let's start out trying this direction here. All right, so shape 1 is 16 is one number and 8 is the other number. So 16 times 8. And I would say use your calculator for this, but I don't have one. So I'm going to solve that. 8 times 6 is 40, what is that, 48? Carry the 4. 8 times 1 plus 4 is 12. So this section is 128 units. And this section over here, one number is 4 and the other number is 8. So 4 times 8 is 32. All right, so 128 plus 32 for my whole area. 8, 9, 10, carry the 1, 2, 3, and then 3 more will be 6, and then the 1. So it's 160 feet. Don't forget your squares, okay, your units. Now, if I were to try it the other direction, I could, and it would also work. I could multiply 8 times 8, which would be 64, and then I could multiply, this whole section is 8 and 4 is 12, so this would be 12 here, 12 times 8, and I don't know what that is, 12, 24, 36, 48, 60, 72, 84, 96, and you would add the two together. 6 and 4 is 10, carry the 1, and that's 16. So it's still a 160 feet squared. Either direction you do it. It doesn't matter how you divide it as long as you have your two numbers and you're looking at this and realizing where to break it. Let's look at number 9. Looks pretty tricky. All right, so we've got lots of ways we can break it up. We can break it up here. We could break it up here. We could break it up here. Any way we do it is going to be 3 different directions. So I think I'm going to draw a line here. So that gives me this little tiny 2 times 2. And then I'm going to draw a line here, which gives me this 1 times 1. So now we have to figure out what this long rectangular shape is. So we have 1 times 1 right here, and then we have 2 times, now if this whole thing is 2, and we cut it in half, what is half of 2? It's 1. So this section here is 1 times 2. So 1 times 2 equals 2. And then 1 times 1 over here equals 1. So we've got section 1 is 2. This section is 1. Now we need to find what this section inside is. So how do we do that? Well, if the whole section is 2 and half is 1, what is the other half? The other half is 1. All right. And the whole section, it tells us that this is 3 here, and then we've got to go from here to here. So what is 3 plus 1 more? 3 plus this 1 is 4. So then it's going to be 1 times all the way across is 4. So 1 times 4 equals 4. So now we're going to add 1 times 2 is 2. 1 times 1 is 1. And then 1 times 4 is 4. So then you add them up. Oh, you can't see. 2 plus 1 plus 4 would be 7. So it's 7 centimeters squared. So again, it's pretty simple. This is the trickiest one on the whole page here because it's 3 different shapes and you have to kind of divide it up. So number 7, I would probably just draw my line here, and I would find the area of this rectangle and the area of this rectangle, and then add the 2 together to find the sum. So draw my line there. So this is 3. Now, how do we get the space from here to here is 3. Well, how much is from here to here? It's 2. So 3 and 2 more, and then 3 more, because you've got to go 3, 2, and 3. So what is 3 plus 2 plus 3? 8. So 3 and 3 is 6, and 2 more is 8. So I'm just going to put 8 centimeters. So 8 times 3 is 24, and then 3 right here times 2 is 6. So 24 and 6 more makes for a sum of 30. Don't forget your units, inches squared. Okay, let's go ahead and turn the page. And hey guys, if you want to use the calculator for those, you can. Just make sure that you're kind of thinking and looking at everything. All right, this is pretty cool. This is the mercy seat, Ark of the Covenant in the Old Testament when Moses was told to build all of this stuff. You see the angels here. They're hovering, they're praying, their wings are touching. This is in the Old Testament, the tabernacle, the table of showbread. Get your parents to talk to you about this. This is really cool. This is no longer used in Jewish traditions, but it is still talked about. And this is actually, Ark of the Covenant is in like Indiana Jones movies. All right, moving on. So number 11, the mercy seat in the Ark of the Covenant was 2.5 cubits, which is 45 inches long, and 1.5 cubits, which is 27 inches wide. What was the area of the mercy seat in square inches? Now they're wanting us to solve it in inches, so we don't need to worry about the fraction. Okay, so remember, when we're finding the area, it tells us to find the area, we need to multiply two numbers, length times width. So I'm just going to come out here to the side. I'm going to put length times width out to the side to remind you. So it wants us to multiply two numbers, and it tells us area in inches. So what two numbers we multiply? 45 inches times 27 inches. And I would suggest using a calculator because I don't know that off the top of my head. But when you write your answer, make sure you put inches, and you can do the abbreviation squared. Okay? So it's the same thing for number 12 and 13. All right, number 14, it says there were 10 curtains used in the tabernacle. So if it's one curtain is in number 13, but now there's 10, explain how to find the area of the 10 curtains. So if this is one curtain, what would you do to find 10 curtains? So if you have like one Lego that's whatever, then the area of 10 Legos all pieced together. So how would you find that? You could add it 10 times, or fifth graders don't have to add repeated. We can multiply. So for number 14, you're going to multiply. All right, so let's move on to Number 15. I don't know why my camera's not focusing there. All right. It says name the shape according to the number of sides. Write the equation to find the perimeter. Now remember, I told you that I need to start counting the sides like a clock. So you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 sides. The 5 sides are like a building in Washington, D.C. It's called the Pentagon. All right. So it's a pentagon. So it's telling us to do two different things. Name the shape and write an equation to find the perimeter. So how do we find the perimeter? The perimeter is different. The perimeter is the outside area, like a fence. It's not the carpet on the inside. It's the outside, like a fence. So if we know that each side is 10, we can multiply or we can count by tens. I would just multiply, make it super simple. So the equation would be how many sides are? There are 5. And how much is each side worth? Each side is worth 10 meters. So your product would be 50 meters. Now here's the thing. Because you're not multiplying units times units, it's not squared. Perimeter is not squared. Perimeter is just regular. All right, again for this one, it's kind of weird looking. I would start here, count the sides. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. A six-sided object is a hexagon. Right, very good. All right, so how do you find the perimeter of the hexagon? You add up the sides. So 3 plus 2 plus 2 plus 3 plus 2 plus 2. So you could say 3 and 3 is 6, and 2, 4, 6, 8. 8 and 6 makes what? Make sure you put your answer in your unit. It is not squared, it's just plain. All right, and this one's tricky. You only have 2 numbers, but you're still finding the perimeter. It's where you add up the sides. So you can say there's 4 sides, so there's 4 numbers, or you could even multiply what we did over here, but I would just add 9 and 9 is 18, and 6 and 6 is 12, and add the 2 together. Don't forget, it's not squared, it's just regular old units. Okay, so now number 18, it says find the perimeter and the area. So you have to find both. You can still use a calculator if you want to. Perimeter, you're adding up. Now this is where it gets a little tricky. All right, so let's just start adding. We know this is 5, but what is this section here? How much fence goes there? Well, if the whole thing is 4, but this little part is 2, what is that left? So 4 minus 2 is 2 feet. So this little part is 2 feet. Now what is this little part for the fence? Well, this has to have a fence or the dog's going to escape. So if the whole thing is 8, but part of it is 5, 8 minus 5 equals 3. All right, so 5 plus 2 plus 3 plus 2 plus 8 plus 4. Oh, I don't know, I didn't add it. So 5 and 2 and 3 makes 5, so 5 and 5 is 10. 10 and 2 is 12. 12 and 8 makes 20. And 20 and 4 more makes 24. So the fence would need to be 24 feet. Now the area, you have to multiply. So I would just draw this line right here. 3 times 2 is 6 feet. And 5 times 4 is 20 feet. So for a total of 26 feet squared. So they're not the same, and they're usually never the same. All right, number 19, area is super easy. 8 times 8 is 64 feet squared, and perimeter, there's four sides of 8. So 8 and 8 makes 16, and then 16 and 8 makes 24, and then 24 and 8 makes, right, there's your answer. So put your answer there. All right, any questions for me? You can video me, you can text me. Page 254, 253, 254 is due. Please make sure your parents send it in. Thanks and have a good day.